Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be recording the video that I have been putting off for almost 2 years. So I promised basically 2 years ago after I had had Maddox that I would talk about just the NICU journey and preterm labor and all of that to do with him, and I just haven't done it yet. And so I figured, why not bite the bullet, just get it done today. And honestly, I think that I have been putting it off because I've been scared of the things that are going to come out of my mouth and the way that I was feeling. And I think that it was honestly like a trauma response of me not really dealing with how I actually felt in the time. So at the time, whatever. So in terms of just some background, just so you guys know, if you're new, if you didn't know this already, I went into labor at about 32 weeks with Maddox. He was my second baby. I ended up having 2 C-sections 11 months apart. The first C-section with Daxton was because he was sitting really breech. I tried the external whatever turnaround thing. I did acupuncture. I probably could have waited to see if he would have flipped during labor, but I had known someone who had lost their baby literally a week prior, and I was fearful, and I just was like, I don't care. Let's book the C-section. Let's get this baby out alive. Don't care. Fast forward 4 months, I got pregnant again, not on purpose. It was just, it happened. We're in Mexico and whatever. Anyways, I got pregnant. So you're not supposed to get pregnant that soon. And so I really, truly in my heart feel that it was my body's way of saying me getting bigger probably wasn't the safest thing for my body. And so anyways, I had a C-section, 32 weeks. I was on a walk. And I was like, I think I'm in labor. And if you guys followed me then, you remember I was on my Instagram what does labor feel like? Because I'm woo. And I was breathing really heavy. I felt like I was in labor because I was. And so I went to the hospital later that day. They told me I wasn't. Anyways, back and forth for about 4 days of them telling me that I wasn't in labor until I finally went in because my contractions were a minute apart and it was full-blown labor. So anyways, I was admitted to the hospital. They gave me some drugs to try to stop the labor. It slowed it for about 12 hours. And then from there, it picked up really quickly. I was 5 centimeters dilated at the time that they decided to admit me for a C-section. He easily could have come out vaginally. And honestly, to this point, I'm still pissed that I kind of got pressured, bullied, whatever, into the C-section because he was coming. But I was also so fearful because it was preterm labor. I was 32 weeks pregnant. I didn't know if he was going to be healthy or what. So anyways, I got a C-section. Obviously no one plans to go into preterm labor. It just happened. And I think the hardest part for me was knowing while I was having the C-section, they said, don't be alarmed if he doesn't come out crying or he might not be able to breathe and all of these things. And so you're preparing yourself for the worst. So now that I know Maddox, I'm I honestly think he had FOMO and he was eager as heck to get out and be able to do everything because that's how he lives his life now. So anyways, he came out, he was healthy. He was crying. They were like, wait, is this baby really 32 weeks? Why is he crying? They were all confused. He was 5 pounds, 4 pounds, 12 ounces or something like that, which is big for a 32 weeker. So, and if you guys, again, see him now, he's a tank. So he came out pretty healthy. We were admitted into the NICU. I had, my other baby was not even 1 year old yet when I had that baby, when I had Maddox. Daxton's birthday was 6 days later. So they're 11 months, 3 weeks apart. And so Daxton was little. He wasn't even 1 yet. I had a baby in the hospital. The baby was kept in the hospital for almost 4 weeks, which all seems like a blur now because 4 weeks seems like a long time, but back then it didn't seem very long at all. So basically, maybe was it longer than 4 weeks? I think it was about 4 weeks. So anyways, what I wanted to say about my journey was that I was very fortunate in the fact that he was healthy. He came out, he didn't need support, he didn't need to be intubated or incubated. He was in an incubator just because that's what they do in the NICU, but he didn't need it closed. For the first day, they did all of those things, and then they realized he was okay. So he had the feeding tube. That was the biggest medical thing that he had, was the feeding tube. And I think they had the CPAP or whatever machine for breathing, but he didn't need it. They knew it right away that actually he never used it. They had it on and then they're like, oh crap, it was never actually even on his nose or whatever. So it wasn't even working properly anyways. He was good. He was totally good that way. And I am so lucky because I know many, many people who have preterm babies are not in that same position. And even to this day, I honestly think my dates were a little bit wrong from when I think I was pregnant. So maybe he was actually closer to 33 weeks. I don't know. Anyways, in the NICU, he was there because he had to be there until he could feed himself. So as in he didn't need to be fed through the tube. He would have to latch long enough, either on a bottle or my boob, and they needed to see that consistently before they were going to let him go home. Because my baby was 1 year old, Daxon was still nursing. He was still sleeping in our bed. He had never been without me. I was like the crazy mom with Daxon, with him 24/7. I had never left his side, like anything, until like 2 weeks before I ended up going into labor. So anyways, I had been away in the hospital, and so I knew that I wanted to be at home with Daxon. So at night, I would stay at the hospital. So I'd get to the hospital at like 9 a.m. I would leave at 9 p.m. And 9-ish and go home and then sleep at home and then go back to the hospital. That's the way I lived for like 4 weeks. Luckily, we had the Ronald McDonald House, and so I think that's what it's called. And so Ronald McDonald House, where we could have Daxon come. He would play there. He would be with Daniel. We would switch off. My parents were there. And every single day looked like that. I didn't have the ups and downs of like him almost not breathing or any of that stuff. And so we're really lucky. I know, again, I met a lot of NICU moms where that was not the case for them. And some of the stuff that they go through is just so heartbreaking. But I wanted to just share because I know that there's people who maybe they're about to go into labor, and I have people still message me that are having false labor signs or whatever early, like 32 weeks, and they're panicking. And I just want to tell you, most babies are okay. When the doctor came in to talk to us, he said, you're really lucky at the 32-week mark. They're usually perfect. Anything after 28 are usually fully healthy and they're good. They might deal with a little bit of stuff, but most of the time they're good. So anytime moms message me, I'm like, after 32 weeks especially, I'm like, you're in pretty much the safe zone in terms of what doctors think is safe, and what babies will typically be healthy from. So anyways, that was my journey, like 4 weeks, every single day, spending the whole day in the NICU. What I've realized now is that I think I completely detached from him because of the fear of what could happen. So the C-section experience is very different with a preterm baby. I saw him briefly and the baby was taken away from me immediately. Daniel left. I had no cell phone. I was left in the hospital bed, and like you have like a couple hour recovery after you have a C-section so that the drugs can wear off until you can start feeling your stuff, and then whatever, they send you up to your room. So all of this happened, okay? And this is where I think that post-birth skin to skin is so important, and something I did not have, you guys, for over 12 hours, okay? So now looking back, I'm like, I totally see all of that as a trauma response in my brain that detached me from him. And so in those 12 hours after birth, whatever, like I gave birth, Daniel's gone, can't get a hold of him, don't know what's going on, is my baby alive, is he fine? Like I had no updates, no nothing. I'm just laying there by myself with all of my thoughts, hoping that my baby's okay. And so eventually we like went up to the room. I was so tired because I hadn't slept in 3 days from having monitors on me for labor. Basically, they like kept monitoring me for his heartbeat and all of that stuff for 3 days. So every 30 minutes they were checking on me at night. I couldn't sleep. And so, anyways, so I was in the hospital, I was exhausted, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should just sleep first. I don't know why I thought that would be a good idea and like not go into the hospital room till the morning. Like thinking back on that now, I'm like, what mother doesn't want to go instantly? But I think the issue was that I had to be able to get in a wheelchair and I couldn't move. So I had to be able to get off the bed and get in a wheelchair. And I think I was still high on drugs or anything. I don't know. But like typically after you have a C-section, you're not like up and moving and walking around. I was, because I needed to go see my baby. So Daniel's like sleeping beside me. It was like 5 a.m. I woke up panicking and I was like, I need to get over, like, you need to take me to him. You need to take me to him. And so we go in there, and then it makes me want to cry now. But we get in there, and it's such a weird experience, you guys, because you have nurses telling you, woo, I gotta pause it. I'm back. I'm going to try not to cry. So, okay. So you have nurses telling you what you can and cannot do. You can't just pick up your baby. You don't get to just nurse them. They're in this little thing with all of these things attached to them. They're so small. Maddox was so tiny. She told me to change his diaper, and I'm just like, how? Like his legs were like the size of this pen. I was just like, what do you mean? Like, how do you touch him? This is so weird. They're like little aliens. And so he was swollen, had all this stuff attached to him, and it's just, it is the weirdest experience. And I honestly think I fully detached after that, because I was just like, I had a nurse tell me what to do with my child. And so you're just like, okay, now you don't feel like the expert of your own baby. You're like, everyone else knows better. And it was just a really weird experience for me. And so basically after that, it was just watching him like that. I was able, obviously, a lot of you guys know this, I was already nursing Daxton. So my breast milk came in right away, and it was like tons, because I was able to nurse Dax at home. I would pump at the hospital, pump tons and tons and tons and tons of milk. So I had lots of breast milk, basically acted like a dairy cow, pumped all day, pumped all night, like whatever. And he was getting fed my milk through a tube. And then eventually, I think after about 2 weeks, he was gaining weight perfectly. He was feeding from me. We had to use a nipple shield. He was starting to latch on bottles. We would give him a soother all the time to help his jaw get stronger. And yeah, it was just a weird experience, but he ended up feeding really well. He was able to latch to my boob with a nipple shield. And so we were able to take him home. For the 4 weeks though, like, think of this as a mom. Now looking back, I'm like, okay, so like over half the day, every day, I was not with my baby. Those are critical times that you are bonding, when they're sleeping with you, when they're with you 24/7, like, it's all important. But because he was so sleepy and tired, like, he didn't cry a lot, because as a newborn, like, they're just not, or as a preemie newborn, like, they're not in that phase yet of crying. So he was really quiet. And so he would just sit there, and he never like acted like he needed me once he'd sleep. And so he'd be swaddled and left there, and he'd sleep. And the nurses always told me he was perfect and he didn't cry at night. So I was like, okay. They were like, honestly, just go home, like, go sleep in your bed, and then come home, come here in the morning. And so that's what I did for the 4 weeks. I never stayed the night once. And it was hard, because I had 2 babies, and I had to choose, like, who am I going to be with? I couldn't have Daxton sleep in there with me. There's no way. And so I would go home at night, and I don't know, like, now even talking about this, I'm like, I don't know if that was the right thing to do, because mine and Maddox's relationship has always been, I'll be honest, I didn't love him as much as Daxton. It feels awful to say, but like, I think because I completely detached, because I was scared and fearful of the outcome of what was going to happen. I just didn't let myself feel the same way that a mom, this is tough, the way a mom normally would about her baby. And so all that time apart in those 4 weeks totally made an impact on our relationship. And even with Maddox now, like, he doesn't like to be rocked. He just falls asleep on his own, and that's amazing. Some moms will be like, that's amazing. But it's just interesting how there's no way to, like, calm him. And I think now that he's almost 2, we're building a different relationship, and it's a lot better. But for a long time, like, he would cry, and I would hear it as I didn't have the same response that a mom should have when your baby's crying. It would be almost like, I'd be like, oh, what does he need? Like, it was just different than when Dax would cry. I was like, oh, what's wrong? Like, I would come to him right away, where with Maddox, it was just different. And it's taken me basically now, I don't want to make this video too long, because I'm scared YouTube won't let me upload it. But it's taken me almost 2 years, you guys, to be able to say these things out loud. I've told people close to me. But I really do think it's the way all of that happened. I think it's that 12 hours that I didn't see him after I had him made a huge impact on our bonding. Not being able to just pick your baby up and hold them. Weird. It's weird. The breastfeeding and not being able to nurse them. That's another bonding thing that we didn't have for a month. Like, all these things, I think, really impacted our relationship. And if it would have been my first baby, I would have never left his side, and I would have stayed there. But because it was my second and I had a baby at home, I had to choose. And so I kind of did split my time half and half. And I don't know. So my biggest advice for you, if you are going through it, is I just want to tell moms, like, it's normal. If you love one baby more, it's normal. My relationship 2 years later is still developing, and it's gotten a lot better with him. I love him so much, but like, literally for a while, I didn't know how I felt. And that's weird as a mom to be able to say that out loud, and it sounds awful, but these were feelings that I'm here, I'm alive. They were feelings that it's really hard to say and not feel the shame and the guilt and all of that. But for me, the biggest way I've been able to understand it is I really truly think it was a trauma response of just kind of guarding myself from him, with a fear of something happening to him. And that's just how it is. And like, now he's amazing. He's healthy. He's totally good. He sleeps amazing now. We did tons of co-sleeping, nursing. Like, he spent so much time with me. It's not like I neglected him in any way, but emotionally in my head, the way I felt was off. And so 2 years later, I can like talk about it out loud, normal. And I tell people this all the time. Like, I loved one of my babies more, and now I love them both, but in a different way. And it's taken me a long time, and now I feel like I have catch up to do to try and like build that emotional attachment to each other. So anyways, I want to try to keep this to 15 minutes. So that's really my briefest, quickest overview about my postpartum and NICU experience. And like, aside from that, like, the hospital was amazing. The staff were amazing. The nurses were amazing. They were so helpful. They were just so great. And being at the Surrey Memorial Hospital, like, they were amazing. Everyone was so accommodating and caring. And it was just really, it wasn't an awful experience at all. Like, the experience of it itself was good. It was just the emotional attachment that happened. And so if you're a new mom or have a baby that you think you're going to have in the NICU, or you currently have a baby in the NICU, I would just tell you, if you can, spend as much time with them and try to cope with what you're feeling and thinking. And sometimes it takes time to even have these things come through. But if you're feeling how I was feeling, which was like, I'm here and it's great. And people would tell me, like, you're so positive. And I was like, it's fine. Like, I have someone helping. Like, I stayed very positive through it. And people on Instagram I know would message me, like, you're handling this so well. And I'm like, yeah, it's good. It's great. It's fine. Like, everything's fine. People are helping. He's healthy. And it was all good. Like, for what could have happened, it was amazing. But I wasn't coping with anything. I wasn't letting myself cry about it. I wasn't letting myself get upset about it, because I felt like, why should I? There's people that they lose their babies, or their babies are not healthy. Like, I don't have that excuse. My baby's amazing. And so I didn't really cope with any of my emotions at the time of like the whole experience. And so it's taken me a long time to work through it. But I just want to say, if you're having any of these weird feelings, or the love for one baby versus the other, or your attachment stuff, like, I just want to say, relationships are different. Every single baby is going to be different. Every single human relationship is going to be different. I don't know for sure if it was just the NICU or if it was the second baby coming so quick as another baby. Like, I don't know. All I know is I think all of that played a part in our attachment to each other. And I've been playing with this pen the whole time. And anyways, I just think you're not alone. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. I think it's okay to talk about it. It's very weird for someone who hasn't experienced that to understand, I think, that you can have these feelings, but I think it needs to be talked about. And I just don't want anyone to ever feel like they're alone in this. And the struggle and just the difference of what you're going to feel. And if you're a first-time mom listening to this and this is your journey, it's tough. It's really tough, and it sucks because it's not normal. You should be able to do what you want with your baby. You should be able to hold them all day long. You should be able to do all those things. And luckily, while he was attached to everything, I could hold him majority of the time because he didn't need to be in that incubator or whatever. But I just find myself so fortunate for our experience there and how amazing it was and how healthy he is. And like, I'm working through my own crap now, and we're doing it together. And now sometimes I'll go into his room at night and be like, I need to like snuggle him and say I love you, because it's all this like built up stuff that I didn't do when he was a baby. And so anyway, I'm so glad he's still a baby, and there's a whole lifetime to like I knew it was going to be a mess. Anyways, I was just saying, there's so much time now for me to like work through that all with him and like rebuild our attachment and relationship and all of that. So yeah, basically just wanted to make this video really quick so that you guys had an idea about what that was like and our little journey. And yeah, hopefully that was helpful. And if you guys have questions or anything you want me to cover in depth, that was a very quick overview. Please just ask, like, comment below, and I'm happy to even like reach out to me on Instagram. My name's Carly Pinchin. Reach out anytime. Like, if you have questions or want to know and like need someone to talk to, like, please just know I'm here as a mom who has been through it, and it's tough. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully this video was a little bit helpful and you finally learned a little bit about that journey. Bye.